All right, so this video is to help you out with those very confusing and frustrating, or is it frustrated, participle adjectives. The participle adjectives are confusing because sometimes students don't know when to add an ing at the end, an ed, or anything. A participle adjective is just an adjective. It looks like a verb though, and that's why it gets confusing, right? Like a verb, we can add an ed to it in the past. We can add an ing to it if we're using a progressive form. So why do some adjectives do that? And that's because of what I'm going to tell you now. So a participle adjective has an ending that is like the participle form of a word, which is either the ed form or it's the ing form, okay? So when we use these on verbs, we're usually talking about past or continuous progressive action. But when we're using them on adjectives, we're talking about whether somebody or something received an action or a feeling, right? And ing is whether something put out and caused a feeling. Participle adjectives, when they end in an ed, that just means that somebody or something is receiving the effect of something, like receiving a feeling, right? Whereas when there's an ing, that means something or somebody is causing or giving out a feeling, okay? So we can focus on, the verb bore or interest, right? There's many confuse. See, all of these are verbs, right? But we can turn them into an adjective by adding an ed or an ing. So if I say I am bored, it's different from saying I am boring. There's a big difference, actually. If I say I am bored, that means I'm receiving the feeling, the effect of something else. And I feel that. I feel bored, right? Like there's a movie, I don't like it, I feel bored, okay? Whereas if I say boring, that means that something is causing that feeling of boring. The movie is boring. The lecture is boring, right? But if I say I am boring, that means I'm causing the feeling of boring. Same thing with the word interest. If I say I'm interested, or she's interested in living here, that just means she's received that feeling of the interest. If I say she's interesting, that means she's causing that feeling of interest. Like, wow, something is interesting about her. She's causing interest. She's interesting, right? A really good one is the one that I have here, confused. This is really common, and I hear it so much that students will say, I have a question, I'm confusing about this thing, and I'm like, it's actually confused. Why is it that they are confused, right? And not confusing. The reason is, if a person is confused, that means something else caused them to feel that way, and they feel and receive the effect of that feeling, right? But if they say, I'm confusing, that means they're the cause. They're making something out in the world that is confusing, okay? Sometimes I tell students that often the ed is used to describe people, and the ing is used to describe things. But that's not always the case, but most of the time we use ed to describe people. I'm confused. Oh, I'm interested. Oh, she's embarrassed. He's bored, right? And we use the ing to describe the cause, the thing that causes the feeling, right? The movie's boring. The book is interesting. The thing is usually what's causing the feeling. So the movie is boring. The lecture is interesting. The idea you have is confusing. See, these are not people. So that's not always the case, but you know, sometimes, yeah, I'll say people over here and things over here, although that's not always the case. But the most helpful way for you to remember is that ed is used when you receive a feeling, ing is used to cause that feeling, okay? So I hope this video has helped you just a tad with using the participle adjectives, and thanks for watching.